Welcome to Promo Perspectives, a podcast presented by Sage dedicated to giving promotional products, suppliers, and distributors tips, tricks, and insights into help grow their businesses. I'm Gabe Gotai, Senior Marketing Coordinator here at Sage, and today I'm going to be presenting part 2 of my interview with Brad Gooch from Ideal Incentive and how he has built a great business using Sage Store solutions. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, make sure you go and listen to that wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, those are two big ones. So the real-time inventory, when Sage came out with that, I don't know if it was about this time last year or if it was the year before. Might be losing track of time, but that was a game changer for sure. We've been having to do it, but on our end, it created a lot of work for us. So now having that be part of the store is that was a big deal. And so we're still running our reports, we're still giving our suggestions, we're still identifying kind of peak points of a program. Excuse me. So when when we feel that a lifespan of that particular product has kind of plateaued, we try to catch it as close to that point as possible. The last thing we want to do is say, okay, order another 144, and it's been dipping for the past two reorders, and now we're sitting on inventory. That is that's a misconception that we want $20 bills sitting on the shelf. We don't. We want this turning just as much as the client does. And so having that feature in Sage is huge. So, oh, the evil stepsister shipping. Um, so it is a challenge. And, I say that the first one to figure out the algorithm for shipping is going to be eating fruit on their yacht, wiping their mouths, using $100 bills as napkins. It's going to be a very wealthy individual that figures that out for this industry. Um, so it just boils down to dimensions, open space dimensions, and assigning that to each product, and then using a form of arithmetic to add those items, and then adding a percentage to know what your open space is. That's a lot of kind of mumbo jumbo, but it ends up just being a math problem. And so now I know if I want to take one of these and one of these and put it in a box this size, it will tell me exactly, how many boxes I'll need in order to do that. But it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist right now. And so that is a very, very common question, pain point, frustration for the distributor, as it should. Um, and so what's the solution? You say, okay, so what do you do? Well, you have, I guess, a couple different options. The best way to us is to bill the client once we know exactly what that amount is. And so we don't like to undercharge people. We don't like to overcharge people. Um, and so if they are willing to subsidize the um, the program, the costs for their employees by taking care of the shipping, any client that's willing to do that, that program has a far greater likelihood of being a success. Because we know, again, the Amazon effect, that a $14 item with $6 in shipping is far more expensive than a $20 item free shipping. The human brain, it's like, oh, free shipping. They see the word and they think that $20 is less than 14 plus 6. And so, and on top of that, it is just the infinite number of possibilities when you have all of these items to choose from. How many of this item? How many of that item? Where is it going to go? What's the method? Um, it's there's a lot of moving pieces. So once we as humans know what that amount is, accumulate that, whether that's bill them at the end of the week, at the end of the month, sometimes even at the end of a quarter, um, and then have it be what our cost is, and then it's fair to everyone. For clients that don't want to do that, then we hit one of two kind of thresholds. The first one is trying to factor how much that shipping is going to be. Um, there's a lot of work that goes into that and determining what those products are, where is it coming from, you know, the crystal ball, where are we going to be shipping it to? Who knows? And so attaching percentages to it, it's not going to be accurate. It will never be accurate that way, but you could try to get close and you could end it there. And then you could say, okay, let's see where we were at the end of that period where we, plus or minus. The second threshold is once you get to that point, if you want to work that into your agreement and say, okay, your client will be either charged or credited for whatever that difference is. That's the only other way to get it accurate, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a pain, and it's something that we do, but we don't really like to do it. So until someone comes up with a program that can actually figure out dimensional weight or dimensional space that translates into accurate um, points of box size, box weight, box value, box destination, box method, those things. And I don't know, to me, it sounds so much more difficult than it should be. Um, it's like I can see how it's supposed to work, but I'm not the, you know, I'm not the magician behind the curtain that does IT stuff. So until that happens, our suggestion is to build the client. Oh, I guess, one other way is if you want to build some of it into the product, um, still build a client for the actual cost. And, in essence, the employee is paying for some of that shipping, and it does subsidize some of that actual cost to our client. Some like the idea, and some think that's not being as straightforward with their employees. So, um, we say, you make the rules, we'll enforce them. Um, so that's the shipping element. It's an ongoing challenge.
In one of his earlier responses, while discussing the costs of shipping, Brad alluded to the importance of passing along the costs of your time and services to the customer. I asked him to elaborate on the importance of that.
Absolutely imperative. It the product is the product is the product, and anyone that doesn't think that time is the most valuable element in life, isn't doing themselves or anyone else justice. And if you don't charge for your time, then you can't complain when someone else doesn't respect it. And so it's not about the if, it's about the how. And every client is different. Some like to see itemized charges, some like it to be built in. Um, I mean, I'm a big fan of accountability. So, whether it's a web store or an order itself, I enjoy listing art fees. It's kind of a polite way of telling the client they're going to pay more when they provide garbage artwork. I like showing manufacturer rush fees, even if we're not getting charged the cost. Maybe next time they'll prioritize, sending the order um, within the timeline that was communicated versus, rushing home to watch the next episode of Yellowstone. It is, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to the web stores, time is everything, and opportunity cost is massive. So when you talk about, okay, what needs to be what needs to be taken into consideration here. Um, of course, I mean, the naturally set up and artwork and so forth, that goes without mentioning. But, they didn't say, okay, and let's just go into the premise that we're going to keep 10 products of 20 different items within each product on the shelf for them, just so some of these examples will kind of align. You've got warehousing spaces, the space costs money. When the items come in, what are we doing? We're inspecting it. We as human beings, we're inspecting this. You would be shocked at how many times an item has come in. Actually, just happened on a monster order, um, where I don't remember the percentage, but it was a certain number of bags. The logo was printed upside down. We've had items where in golf balls where the 18th box down was an entirely different company's logo. Crazy, crazy stuff has happened over the years. So we have to inspect that, and that is that's time and that's money. Now it's in our building. What do we have to do? We've got to insure this stuff. So we have insurance. So if our building goes up in flames, or if there's a flood, or if there's a fire, or whatever, that is current cost um, that we have to reimburse that client or replenish that inventory. So so that's an element. And so what else is involved? You've got program management is kind of a term that we use a lot. So it's what's involved with that. It's not just, creating the store, it's those meetings, in advance of determining, what we're going to do and how to explain it and the tutorials and so forth. Creating account credits, coupon codes, it's all time. And then the reporting, how we are dissecting that information and making recommendations, and how I said before about, catching that item before it flattens out too much, and saying, okay, yes, this item has been moving, but at a slower pace, it's time to refresh. And there's a lot of value in that. Then that saves us from having more $20 bills sitting on the shelf. The inventory control. Yes, the Sage stores do that for us, which is huge. But it's not always a product that's on the store. It could be custom packaging, it could be um, greeting cards, it could be tissue, it could be a lot of things that aren't you know, actually an inventory item on the store. You have the shelf life of the item. Um, you know, you have to work that into your equation, and that's got to be a conversation. And then it's also got to be, you have to talk about that with the supplier. Um, what are the conditions that it needs to be under, and what is if you're within those parameters of that of those conditions, what is the shelf life of this item? Is there a custom URL? Not a lot, but it's still a cost. Then you get into payments. You have the methods. You have the cost of taking credit cards. You have their payment history in and of itself. You have chargebacks. You have the like our main. Are we dealing with our main context? So if there is a challenge that surfaces, are we dealing with our main contact? Or are we going to have to deal with the other, you know, how many of our other employees to handle their issue directly? Shipping materials, outer boxes, bubble wrap, whatnot. You have fulfillment materials, custom boxes, the tissue, the ribbon, greeting cards, and so forth. And then, you have to address the return policy. So we have very specific language surrounding that. Um, and ultimately, it's kind of just setting those guidelines that, at the end of the day, I don't have any use for an item with our client's logo on it. So there has to be a commitment there that if they don't, I don't know, like it or want it any longer or whatever, that our client being the company itself, is is taking ownership of that, because without it being defective, we're not taking it back. So there's a lot, right? There's a lot that goes into that that it's taking a lot of time. It's your expertise, it's your knowledge. It's like you can't go to a doctor, you can't go to an attorney, you can't go to an accountant, without them charging you. They have earned the right to charge you for their knowledge and experience and expertise, and just as we do.
Ideal Incentive focuses mostly on B2B clients. I asked Brad to explain the why behind that and also maybe some of the challenges associated with being a B2C distributor while trying to sell and operate Sage stores.
Yes, we are, I don't know, I would say closer to the exclusively B2B than primarily B2B. Um, and the reasons, bigger dollars, higher margins, better referrals, more repeat business. Um, the we have done some B2C in the past. We used to do some work with schools. Like a school district was fine, where we were doing like uniforms for, like 18 schools within the district as a whole. But then we're also doing some work for an individual school or a sports team, and that we I don't know, 10-foot pole, 100-foot pole. We don't really get close to that anymore. We don't have any interest in that. Um, and the reason is it's just so very high maintenance. Instead of dealing with our corporate contact, who we'll say is purchasing for the hundreds behind them, it's the opposite. We're dealing with, Billy's dad and Susie's mom, and Billy's dad was in Vegas, and now he wants the jacket, even though the ordering period ended last week. And Susie's mom, she wants to exchange the sweatshirt because Susie spent all summer having, McNugget Mondays at McDonald's, and it needs a bigger size. It's just no, thank you. It is it is just too high maintenance, and the scale just isn't there. Um, so as far as, any distributors that are B2C, it's, bless you. Keep on keeping on. We don't want that, but if you found a way to do that and successfully, that's great. Um, but can they transition from B2C to B2B? Can they? Yes. Should they? Yes. Um, I mean, really, I mean, it will be a lot easier if you can deal with B2C. B2B will be, I'm not gonna say a cakewalk, but it will be it'll be a much smoother ride, if you're able to keep people happy on the consumer side of it. Um, they'd probably be pretty successful on the business side.
Finally, I asked Brad if he had any parting thoughts for the audience.
I think the biggest thing is not to undersell yourself, and to recognize your own worth. And that's, we all have in this industry, we all have a responsibility for that. So PPAI, Sage, the supplier, the distributor, there is a chain that works. And the only time that chain gets broken is when anyone along the way thinks that price is most important. And when that happens, then that chain gets broken, and it's not necessary. And so realize your worth, stand up for yourself. And I'm saying that to all of them. I mean, it's like, some of the suppliers, it's like, this is a great product. why are you charging $12 for this thing? You should be charging like $22 for this thing. The market will bear significantly more. Um, and so, um, you know, price, I'm not saying it's not a factor, but I would say on average for us, I would say if we had to say, and we've had to do this with clients in the very beginning when we're working with a client, saying, okay, tell me what is most important to you. Getting it to your event on time, which, it's kind of rhetorical, right? And it's the quality of the product, the safety of the product. It's not going to, blow up in the briefcase or, all these things. And then you get to price, and so forth. And it makes them kind of realize, oh, okay, yeah, like these other things are more important. Um, and, if the budget simply isn't there, then we can come up with another set of groupings that you can look at. But it's not a matter of taking this $25 item and making it $19. You bastardize the product, the industry, and so forth. So stand up for yourself, for the products, for the industry. We can all make money doing this, and the market is there for it.
I want to thank Brad again for coming on the show and sharing his perspectives with us. He really values the collaboration and sharing of ideas between distributors to help grow the industry overall. I hope those of you listening or watching got some good ideas on how to help expand or streamline your businesses and sell more promo using Sage stores. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Promo Perspectives, and we'll see you at the next one.